and welcome each and every one of you. I'm Dr. Judith Moore. I'm the Pennsylvania Mon Valley Black Women Roundtable affiliate. And with us today, we have a panel of individuals from several locations, and we'll let them introduce themselves as we talk about the disparities of COVID-19 vaccinations. With us, we ask that you introduce yourself. First, we have Diane Force. Diane.
Hello, I'm from Loganville, Georgia.
Diane Daniels.
Good afternoon. My name is Diane Daniels. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Alexandria Force.
Hi, my name is Alexandria Forsh, and I'm also from Loganville, Georgia.
Elizabeth Henderson.
I'm from New Kensington, Pennsylvania.
And of course, we have with us Dr. Pauline Long, who's going to be the co-host with the panelists. We'll be asking you some questions, and we ask that you would please answer them to the best of your ability. Dr. Long is going to take over from here and begin to answer the questions.
Okay, my name is Dr. Long, as she said, and I'm from Clearton, Pennsylvania. And this is a national problem, the disparities that exist. I've been reading several articles, as well as I'm sure some of you have, and listening to the news. So it's not just occurring in one part of the country, but the disparity between whites and blacks receiving vaccinations. And at this point too, we're focusing on somewhat between the rich and the poor. And also, since we're in most states still on the 1A, which is 65 and above, and people with special medical problems and healthcare workers or first line workers, we're focusing on them right now because that's who is supposed to be getting the vaccination. So I'd like to ask each one of you, and I'm going to start with Mrs. Moore and kind of work my way around. The first question is, have you received the corona vaccination? And if so, which one did you get?
The answer is yes. I just got my second shot on Thursday. I received the Moderna shot.
Okay, and Diane Daniels?
Yes, I received my second shot 2 weeks ago, and I received the Moderna.
And Diane Force?
No, I have not. I'm getting frustrated. Every time I go to try to get a schedule and get registered, they say they have openings a long distance from me.
Okay.
And I just talked to them this morning, and now they're sending me to another website to see if I can get registered to take the shot. So it's frustrating. I may end up having to go miles to take the shot.
And that is exactly why we're here to talk about that. I'd like to come back to you in a few minutes after I ask Elizabeth if she's had her shot.
I've had my first one, Moderna.
Okay, and I don't know about you, Alexandra, but have you?
No, I have not gotten my shot, but I did get something over the email saying that because of my health conditions that they will be sending me something as far as being scheduled to get the shot.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you about my experience. It's been very, very frustrating too. And then I want to ask each one of you about your experience for those of you who've gotten it. We're talking about some people with the digital divide, which means that those people who are not either on the internet or they don't know how to use their phone as a computer, or in some rural areas, they don't even have the internet available to them. And generally, when we're speaking of the digital divide, we're talking not only about people who are not computer literate, but we're talking about the age of people who sometimes they have the availability, but they're not able to navigate the system. And when we introduced ourselves, I'd like you, when we come back around, when you talk about your experience, to tell me a little bit about your background. I am a community activist. I am an educator. I have a master's in business administration. I'm retired from 30 years in corporate America as a manager in accounting and in IT or information technology. And I have a doctor's in information systems and communications. And the reason I say that is I'm very computer literate, but I signed up with 4 different sites. I've been trying for at least 5 or 6 weeks. I've been on phone calls and I understand how frustrating. So me with all of this background on how to use a computer, and I still couldn't get it. I finally did get my vaccination by getting on late at night and just keeping on getting on these different sites and making phone calls. And one late night, I was able to get an appointment at a place that when I finally went had 5,100 people there. And when I went back on that site a couple hours later to help another lady get on, all those appointments were gone. So I understand what you're saying, Ms. Ford. It is very frustrating. Diane, could you tell us about your experience? Diane Daniels?
Yes, I'm a community activist as well. I work very closely in the East Hills community, but I do PR marketing, and like you, I consider myself pretty educated as well. But because I am an activist and some of my clients are very involved, one of my clients had called and mentioned that he and his staff were going to get the virus and the vaccine, and he couldn't get a person to respond. So I asked him, could I take that person's place? And it so happened that I was able to fill in for that person. But the night before, I had been called and approached about calling the seniors in the community about getting their vaccination, how they had to sign up. So I had signed up that night, excuse me, as well. So luckily, the day that I was told that I could get the vaccination, I was on my way to get vaccinated, but also I had got another call saying, setting my appointment to be able to go and get the vaccination when I signed up with the community. So I know the community, those that had signed up, they received their first shot, but they were having difficulty receiving their second shot.
Wow. How about you, Mrs. Henderson?
Well, at first I wasn't gonna get it at all, but then I kept calling this place, this 211, and then it didn't work out. And then I got a place, left a number, they called me back, and it was an unknown number, and unknown numbers I don't answer. And come to find out that it was the people calling to tell me to come get a shot. So I missed it the first time. Then I had somebody looking up, looking out, checking it out, make sure I'm gonna get it. And found the number and they called me, and then I went down and got my first shot.
So you had help also.
Yeah, you see, I needed help to get on to talk to y'all.
Well, we all need a little help with this. How about you, Alexandra? How was your experience? Well, you haven't had yours, but tell us what you've done to try to get one.
I went online and to the health department to try to get the shot. And when I made the phone call, they asked me a series of questions. And I was kind of taken back when they asked me my race. I didn't understand why they needed to know my race just to get a shot.
Yeah.
So later on, last week, I got something through my email, and it said that because of my health conditions, I have been moved. So when people get the second shot, I'll be on to get my first shot. But I have not gotten a call since then.
Mrs. Dr. Moore, what was your experience?
Well, I think word of mouth. I called some numbers, but then someone called me, a colleague of mine called and said, hey, listen, call this number. And I called that number, and I mean, it was just a blessing because someone actually picked up the line. and I gave them my information. And then somebody I knew, I mean, just keep it real, someone knew and saw my name on the list and connected me to my first shot. And my second shot, a couple of weeks later, you know, that number that I wasn't going to answer, it's a 412. And that's one of the issues, is that you don't know who that person is. There's no connection that it's with the vaccination. So I got a call, I just took a chance and I answered it. And it was for my second shot. It got canceled, but 2 weeks later it got rescheduled. And so I was able to get my second shot.
I am hearing a lot of stories from other people, relatives and friends, where people have had to go to a different state to get a shot.
Wow.
I'm reading articles, and I'd like to just read a part of this one article here that says some states have centered equity as a key principle in their vaccination distribution plans. California has lobbied to set aside 40% of vaccination distributions to marginalized communities of Asians, Blacks, and Latinos, while others have felt that this was not fair. Having a racial preference for a COVID-19 vaccination is not only ethical and should be permissible, but I think it is imperative, said Lawrence Gostin, who is professor of global health and law at the Georgetown University. So one of the reasons I think that you were asked your race, Alexandra, is because states are supposed to be tracking. I'm told Pennsylvania is not doing that, but they are supposed to be tracking that so that they can eliminate disparities, because there have been so many frontline workers who were more exposed to coronavirus, and they are dying at higher rates, the Blacks and Latinos, than other people. And this is why they're supposed to be able to get the vaccinations more. What is your feelings about that, Dr. Moore? And then I'm going to go around and ask everybody the same question. What is your feeling about whether we should be, something should be done that we as Black people, Latinos, and marginalized communities, there should be something done that we should be able to get vaccinations faster than some of the other people, since we're dying at higher rates?
Yeah, I think that that's the key to it right there. The fact that we're experiencing more in terms of death, those who are coming in contact with COVID, those who are on ventilators. I think justice is, when I look at the line that I was in, the first, there were more whites than Black. And I'm just like, now we're talking about equity and fairness. In order to have fairness, it should be equal. If I'm dying, or my people are dying more than another race, equity means that those people who are suffering more should receive it first. And so I think Pennsylvania is really awful, not tracking a whole lot of things. And so this is a pattern of not being able to track if the people who are suffering the most are getting an opportunity to get those shots, which I think that they should be. And I think we need to define what it means when we talk about we just throw those words around, equity and justice. But when it really comes to it all, it appears as if people of color or marginalized people are still yet experiencing institutionalized racism.
Diane, what's your feelings on whether or not they should be special provisions made for Blacks and Latinos and Asians? And do you know of any special things that have been done?
Do you mean Diane Daniels or?
Well, let's start with Diane Daniels and then we'll go to the other Diane.
Well, this is Diane Daniels. I think what happened, things came so quickly, and because we had a president at first that was not into what was going on, And then when the president came in, things were happening so quickly, there was no organization. And, you know, there's always a clientele that feels that they're so privileged. And as we were getting into the neighborhoods, I think they should have looked at zip codes appropriately, but as opposed to being organized and looking at zip codes, getting into the neighborhoods they should have gotten into, you had people that were feel that they should have been privileged and considered themselves being first coming into the neighborhoods. So I think a lot of it was just a lack of organization that was going on. And now that they're trying to be a little bit more organized, now I really don't know what's going on, because in the neighborhoods, I don't know who's getting calls and who's not getting calls and what's going on.
Well, before we go to Diane, I wanted to comment on that, in that I've seen some articles where a person went to get a shot in Milwaukee in a neighborhood that was predominantly Black. And she says she was shocked when she got there that most of the people that are getting the shots were white.
Mhm.
And so there's been a couple stories like that in different states where it's showing that, as you said, the white people are coming in. If there is any kind of indication that they're trying to focus on doing things in the Black or the marginalized communities, meaning Latinos and Asians, that the white people, and we're somewhat going to say middle class and wealthy white people, because if you're able to go to another state, and sometimes I know a person who flew from Florida to Texas. So they weren't, you're just not driving across a border, but they're going to other states, they're going to the Black communities, they're going wherever they can. Here in Clearton, I think our population is about 6,700 people. I went to one of the local drugstores who was giving shots, and a couple of people told me they were taking shots there. And I wanted to sign up because every time I called on the phone, it was busy. So I walked into and I said, can I get on your list? And they said, we have over 3,000 people on our list. I said, there's not 3,000 people over 65 and clear. And they said, we've got people from all over who have called in, and we're not taking any more people right now. And the 2 or 3 people who were sitting there waiting for their shot said that they had got on the list 8 weeks ago.
Mm.
So it's really, like you said, it's so confusing what's happening, Diane. Diane Forts, we're back to you. Tell us about your experiences again, and what you think should be done to help.
I feel like they're putting out the statements that Blacks do not want to take the test because of certain reasons. But that's not most of the case. Most of the case is that people are unable to get in contact or to get an appointment to be registered. I've been trying for months, and still, and I'm almost 70. I'll be 70 this month. And they told me that I didn't, for no special reason, that just call them back, that I wasn't, where I had to get it right now, was one of the things that they told me. So I called back today, and then today, the only appointment they had was Alpharetta. Then they checked and it was filled. So they told me to go on another line and, contact them. So after this, I'm going to get on that line and try to see if I can get up an appointment. I went in to Publix, and Publix said, I couldn't make an appointment there. I had to go get online. I said, well, every time I'm online, it's saying it's full. So they just said I have to just keep trying. And then CVS, you call, they said they've opened, but I'm getting nothing on CVS. So I'm hoping this site that I go on now, and I think it's unfair. If you're doing in a certain area, those people in that area should be serviced before you let somebody in from out of state or from another place.
Mm-hmm.
That they should be serviced first. If you stick to that, I think maybe some of this will clear up. But the way they've got it now, unorganized, I don't like it.
I know that is very frustrating. because for people to say to you, there's no urgency, it's your
Right.
turn. It's your turn. In fact, the people that I know who didn't want to get, they said they're going to wait until things settle down a little bit and more vaccinations are sent out to these locations now that President Biden is there and he's trying to organize things. And I told them, because they're 70 or above also, or above in that category that is now our turn. I said, well, if you wait until there's more, they're going to have opened up the next level.
Yeah.
It's going to be even more difficult for you to get it because there's another level that you got to wait for.
Mhm.
So I have seen some locations where in Rochester, New York, a friend of mine, there was a Black woman who was a nurse at their church, and she went and talked to people at the hospital where she worked, and she was able to get 250 vaccinations sent specifically to her church. And then she signed up some of the elderly people at her church. And so these are some of the kinds of things that maybe we have to try to do. And I think that they did something like that in Homewood also. And I'm thinking these are the things that we need to do. There was something that you said, Ms. Force, that I wanted to comment on before we went to the next person. But it was a question. Anyway, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talk about the frustrations that you have had to have. I'm interested, Alexandra, since I'm not sure, but you're not in the 65 and above. You are in the category that still is supposed to be getting a shot right now. And they're telling you, you should be one of the first, the frontline workers or people with medical problems, pre-existing conditions. You should have been one of the first. And so what are they telling you? Tell me about your experiences.
I'm really getting frustrated because at first, like Ms. Henderson, I was not going to get the shot. There are a lot of people, younger people my age and younger, that are afraid to get the shot because of the way we've been treated systematically as far as healthcare is concerned. But being in the hospital twice with COVID, I decided to go ahead and get the shot and go ahead and take that risk. But when I do, I get even more discouraged because I'm turned away, which I feel that there should be something in place, even at some of the schools or, at some of the Publix or CVS. I went to Publix. They said that they were going to start on Thursday, and you have to get on about 3 o'clock in the morning to try to get registered. And that there was also a roadblock. So it's like you're trying to figure out how, you know, do we fight this system to try to get them, and they know, and younger people feel that it's all about money. If you have the money, then you'll get the shot. If you don't have the money, you're going to have to wait. We feel that we're not important. They feel that they might get sick anyway, or it doesn't matter because of the way it's going at this point. So what do we do? When we see us being turned away so much, meaning, people of color, what do? We go to our doctors. The doctors say the same thing, especially if you have a Black doctor, say the same thing. I've gotten information from my doctor. He's got the shot, but I can't get through to get the shot. So it's confusing and it's frustrating.
Do you think that anything like calling on our congressional representatives from our state might be a help to some of this?
I'm gonna say this, and I'm just making it plain. Our governor here in Georgia is Brian Kemp. He's already been holding us back from a lot of things. So it's very hard. You can go to your senator and you can go there. Yes, I believe you should fight. But at the same time, it's like if he's trying to stop everything from going through, then what are you supposed to do when you have younger people frustrated already and giving up?
Well, I think I've heard all of you talk about that sometimes people feel that maybe Blacks and Asians and Latinos are not, don't want to take the shot. That's what people have been saying because they're afraid of things that have happened with the Tuskegee syphilis experiment and women being given hysterectomies against their will. People have been used as guinea pigs for radiation to see how that would work during World War II, and a host of other things where marginalized people have been used. And at first it was said that we were going to be the marginalized people, the Asians, the Latinos, Africans over in Africa, we were going to be the ones that they were going to test this vaccination on because we would be the guinea pigs. But that hasn't proven to be the truth as far as I know. Do any of you know of anything different? And so if we haven't been used to be the guinea pigs, and now that we want to get, they're saying that we don't want to get the shot. And I know that there are some who don't want to get the shot, and they're not necessarily talking about because of past experiences, but they're just want to wait and see. I've heard people say, I want to wait and see what happens to the first group. And if none of you get too sick, or you don't die, or something bad doesn't happen, then I'm going to take the shot. So I guess there's got to be some other things. I mean, I know that there's one man who I was on the news the other day. He's going around in communities and he is on the computer constantly and on the phone constantly. I think I heard you say, Diane Force, that you dialed 211.
No.
Oh, okay. Someone I know was dialing 211. They told us to do that
Henderson.
up here.
Henderson.
Yeah,
Henderson.
well, I can't
What?
remember who it was, but when you dial 211, sometimes they get full. And I've gotten emails and voicemails that say the queue for 211 and all the people who have been leaving their names to try to get on for those people who aren't using their computer is full. And we are not accepting any more calls at this time. And that's what you get as a message when you dial 211, which is what they're telling some of the elderly people or the people who are in this category to do if they aren't. So this man is going around and he's being on the computer and he's helping. I personally have two friends that I signed up for 3 or 4 different things, and I'm on the computer constantly trying to help them. Are there other things? Just what other things can we do? Because this is a problem, and there's got to be other things that we can do than just talk about it. Can anybody have any other things that they've heard of or things that can be done? Like the woman who was the nurse and got her church all signed up? Can you think of any things you've heard of?
Well, I think a lot of those different types of things are being done because the one where I would receive my first shot was through Macedonia, which is a Black church on the hill. And so I think, the Black community has to be what it has always been, is that we have always been able to somehow or another pull together and help pull one another up or pass the word. That's how I got it. Other Blacks were calling other Blacks and people that they knew, trying to make sure that, hey, I just got on, you call right now, hang up and do that. Or in, I thought it was in Clariton, but maybe I'm mistaken. I thought some of the people, one of the things they should be doing is go to where the people are, and I kind of refer back to my day, which was a while ago. But when we needed vaccines, it wasn't you going to the doctor's office to get a shot. They brought trailers to our communities and we stood in line and received, vaccine for the mumps and all those things like that. So I think there's been a lack of effort in terms of really trying to get to the community because the community is not moving. It's in the same place. And so if you want to get to the people who need it, then you go to where they are or get people who look like us to get it to our communities. And I think the same thing happened with the VA. The VA quickly, I forget who it was a Black official. He is the one that was able to get the VA for people over 75, and my husband's in that range, doing those kinds of things. I haven't seen the real push to get to the communities that it should get to in order to be able to receive the vaccines. And we have challenges. It's COVID. No one wants to get on the bus. No one wants to take, transportation. We can't do carpools like we would have done before. We have to engage the leadership or the grassroots organizations to go to the people in whom they serve.
I think that's an excellent comment about bringing it to the people, even as the buses and trailers, and they've had health. Most hospitals, I know here in the Pittsburgh area, and I would assume they have them all over the country, have a health type of bus that comes around and gets you blood pressure. And even just to have it, like you said, bringing it to the community. They brought the testing to the communities, and they've done a good job, I think, of doing that in many areas. So for that same thing that they're bringing the testing, you've got to bring it to the communities, because I had to drive 25 miles to get my shot. And if I hadn't had a car or didn't know how to drive, I would have had to catch 3 buses. And I don't think I would have caught 3 buses, especially when they are giving. There's 2 clinics here in my hometown who are giving the shots. One is actually a medical cornerstone, and the other one is the drugs, the pharmacy. But they're all booked up with out of town people. I'm saying that because, like I said, there's not 3,000 people in Cleveland to be on that list. So there's got to be some kind of, I think, Alexander, you might have said it, it's got to be some kind of thing where not only is it being brought to the community, but the people in the community should be able to get it first before other people are allowed to get on that list. Because they do ask you generally your address. So they know where you're from, or they ask you your zip code. Elizabeth, what kind of things do you think we should do? Is there anything you want to add to some things that we might be able to do?
Well, first, we talk about CVS, the pharmacies and stuff. First, people that should get a shot is the people that's making your money. They're bringing you the money in there, and they should be on the list, and nobody else on that list.
Amen.
Out of town or nowhere. Then we could go and get a church and start with a church. We're going to start all these little different areas to get these people to get these shots. We're doing it all wrong. Then we're going to go to another community, like they were talking about setting up a van and set up one. They bring food in. Why can't we just put them in their cars and give them their shots?
Right.
There's a lot of things that we can do that we're not doing to get these people the shots. Then you got categories. You 70 years old, you should have had your shot 3 times.
The first and the second.
I'm serious. And if you sick, like Ollie's sick, she should have been the one of the first ones. They should have gave it to her in the hospital.
Thank you.
And also, excuse me, sorry.
That's all right.
Also, some of the Black doctors I feel should, just like one of my doctors, I have 2 Black doctors. One gave me the information, but if they would get together and help the community, Latino doctors, Black doctors, Asian doctors, if they would get together to help the community to get their shots, I feel that it should be better too in our community. They are having some people go around knocking on doors and asking people if they have got the vaccine. I don't know if they're registering those people, but they're getting a group of people to go out, and they're paying them to go to these communities and get their name, I guess, on the list or help them get registered.
If you're gonna knock on the door, give them their shot.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But at least if they're not, now I've heard some people have been called because all of us, well, some of us who are on Facebook, when we get our shot, we take our picture and say, I got my shot, and we put it on Facebook. And as a result of that, I've gotten feedback from people who said, I got a shot too, but somebody called me. And I was trying to figure out, like you saying, Alexandra, how, why is it that they got called? Because those people, they have some pre-existing conditions, but I'm older than them.
Mhm.
And I thought I had an excellent doctor. And when I went to her, she actually visited her in January, which was her last day at 40 years. She was retired. However, the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, which is the biggest hospital system here in the Pittsburgh area, I figured everything I do with them. My son does with them. My late husband did with them. I'm a great customer. I don't want to be sick, but we've given them, our insurance company has given them a lot of money. I thought the UPMC should have called me first. And I was irate when I found out that when they finally did start getting vaccinations, almost the first thing that seemed to be publicized is the 4,000 or 5,000 teachers. Now, I'm not trying to talk against the teachers getting vaccinated, but they seem to have prioritized them with their first vaccinations and not the people who had mitigating medical conditions or who were in the 65 and above range. So that made me angry. But on the other side of the coin, I didn't really want the Johnson, which is what they're given. So these things that we're doing, and when I said something about the political, Alexandra, I understand what you're saying, and that was exactly right on, but there still are some, maybe, I don't know exactly what part and who would be your representatives, your local representatives, perhaps, that would be able. Is it time for us to start demonstrating like we did with Black Lives Matter? Is
We're
it?
gonna
I'm
have,
asking the question.
and see, and that's the thing. It's a lot of, because my son is 20, so he's told me I'm not getting it at all, period, no way. But I'm like, well, you might want to think about it. But it's just the way some of them are thinking is, I'm not going back in history. Is no, we're not going out there to do this. Even though they protested with George Floyd, we should invest in our health, because even when we go to the doctor, it's like we are like, okay, they don't really listen to us. It's okay, well, I'm gonna give you these pills, or you come for this test and that's it. And it's like, hey, doctor, I'm here. Listen to me. And my son went through a couple of things, and it's like I'm trying to convince some of these young people, you got to know your history in order to move forward, and come up with ways that if you don't want to go and hold hands and walk down the street, for all these other things, then what do you want us to do? Because we've got to work with younger people. I mean, because they make up a lot of, the population, to try to make a change. And I've been trying to figure out what else to do. Yes, go to your representative and things like that. I think they might be fighting more behind the scenes. So, instead of really getting out there in the streets, but what does that look like? Okay, if you don't want to do it the way we've been doing it, what does that look like?
Sometimes a phone call or a letter, as it relates to some other issues, depending upon who your representative is, for your state representative and or your state senators, if you know a little bit about them, and if you've made yourself known to them by maybe going to some of their events or just calling them, our local representative for the Clearton area, I'm always seeing him somewhere, and I'm always calling on him for something. And I was about to call him for my shot if I hadn't have gotten it, and just keep calling him. Like I said, there's some people who really don't care. I mean, we've got the conspiracy theories going on where there's all kinds. I mean, I was talking to a girl yesterday who said they heard Bill Gates is trying to do things to reduce the population, and that perhaps maybe this is the reverse thing. Instead of using us as guinea pigs, but that they're trying to not let us have it in order that more of us can die. What is your thoughts on that? Anybody have a comment?
Like, I feel like they're doing different things in different areas to give us less of a chance to survive. And I be just playing, and it's been playing. They tried this method this time. That they get so many, and they try something else. A lot of they talk about poverty and all of that, but it's hard for everybody to get the food that they need in the health area. It's hard for people to get the treatment that they need. So it's not just one area. They're putting their little everywhere to try to stop us. But the strong keep coming.
Anybody else?
Yeah, my thoughts about that is I thought it was in Georgia maybe, or the Senate or something, trying to get it where people have to vote on Sunday or something. And
Don't keep them from voting on Sunday, and they're trying to cut down the early voting down. All the things that they're doing is targeted toward keeping the Black and minority groups from voting, because they know as a history, a lot of them gonna vote on Sunday. They know it's part of history. A lot of them gonna vote early.
yeah,
They don't want them to vote with the where you vote on the
yeah,
Mailing.
yeah.
Polls
My-
through
my-
polls,
yeah,
yeah,
my-
they're trying to
right.
cut that
and
out.
they're trying to get that passed.
Yeah,
It
but
passed in
I meant,
Georgia.
yeah, I just brought that up
Yeah.
to say that if someone's running for office or in the Senate, they seem to know how to get to the Black churches, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
what's going
and
on?
but now the COVID is affecting the very people who voted a lot of the people in office. Some
Mhm,
got somehow
mhm,
have forgotten already
mhm.
that their people are still suffering. You got in because we got up and voted, COVID
Right.
or not. And so I think we need to set a fire under those political officials who we have elected and put in office, and say, hey, we got you in, and be clear, we can get you out. But the fact is that now you're in a position of authority, that now you have a responsibility to make sure the people who you are serving are being served. And a part of that is the vaccine.
One thing I am proud of is that there um, is more information getting out to what certain laws that are being passed mean to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Information that most people would not know or think that they could go to a meeting or go to, the law trying to be passed. A lot of them don't know that they can go in there and sit and listen to the laws that they're trying to pass. So I'm glad that the media, some of the media are getting those things out. And also some of the organizations are getting things out also, as far as the information on, okay, this is happening in your state, as far as what's going on, and also social media. Um, so maybe that is a stepping stone with that information getting out. How does it affect me? How does it affect my community?
I'm glad that some of the things that you all have brought up has come out, even though they weren't necessarily on the agenda of questions, but they're really, really important in the sense to say that what we're talking about voting and holding people accountable, and that, they're trying to turn around and make Jim Crow laws be
Right.
the thing of currently now in all the states. I mean, I can't even recall how many states that I've read about. At least 13 or 14 are opening up.
Yes.
And it's about economics. It's about trying to reverse things or keep things as Trump was trying to keep them.
Right.
And so all of this is intermingled, is what I'm saying.
Yes,
The fact that there's a disparity between the systematic racism that exists in America, the fact that there's a disparity in the criminal justice system, and now it's taken a step further. There's a disparity in our health. Well, there's always been a disparity in our health, but this is the most immediate issue about our health. So I'm going to try to wrap this up, but I'd like to go around and I'm gonna start down at the bottom with you, Mrs. Henderson, Elizabeth Henderson. And I'd like to ask you to just tell me what you might want to, this is taped, and what is one thing that you want to see happen, or you'd like to, you know, you like to see change as it relates to anything that we've talked about here in terms of the disparity of vaccinations. If you want to talk about whether you think Biden administration is going to make a difference over time, or if you just had to say something to people who have the power to make a change, what is it that you would say to them right now?
Well, this is about time for us to stop shifting the blame on one person. We need to get together to do something to make it happen. It's like if you cooking, making cookies. If you keep adding stuff to the mixture, you'll get more cookies. They need to come together as one, and we can get more shots. It can be done, but there's a system of everything that you do, and you just got to know how to do it. It's just like a baseball team. You got players, put them in a position and start them to work.
Okay. Alexandra, if you were talking to somebody who you knew had the power, I don't know who that it would be. I mean, it might be a conglomeration, but this person that you're talking to right now has the power to make a change. What would you tell them we need to do?
I would tell them to keep on exposing what is behind the scenes in order and getting people willing to come together and listen to each side and come up with a solution and fight. You have to continue to fight. We get weary, we get tired, but just like we came out and voted in Georgia, we have to come and fight everything else. Not just the big picture, but the smaller picture also, because you have to start at the bottom, at the smaller point to get to the big point.
Diane Forth, what would you say if you were talking to somebody who you knew had the power to make a change? What would you say for them, to them?
I would say now is not the time to turn away from the problems and pretend that they don't exist. We have to meet these problems head on and develop, like my daughter said, develop a strategy to solve these problems starting from the local level on up. And, you know, we as individuals, as civic participants, need to hold our representatives and everybody else accountable. We put them in a position, but we really don't push to hold them accountable.
All right. Diane Daniels, you're talking to somebody, they got the power. You know they got the power. What are you going to tell them to do?
Well, I think we as the people have the power. We're the ones that vote. So I think that we as the people, we have to make sure that we're educated on all issues. I think we have to make sure that we're continuously voting. I think we have to get out there and work and try to help each other. We have to work together. And one of the most important things, I think we have to really educate ourselves. We can't keep looking at what the media is telling us, because we have to research ourselves, because the media is only giving us one side. And we as the people with the power have to be able to know, and then that way we can work together to get some of the things taken care of.
All right. Well, Dr. Moore,
Yes,
what do you
ma'am.
say?
Well,
You're
you
talking
know,
to somebody.
yeah, when I look at leadership, one of the things I find a flaw is that um, no one really wants to acknowledge the power of the sister vote. It's always the Black vote. Um, and so I think one of the things that I keep hearing is the Black women are the backbone. You know, we're tired of, I'm like this, I'm tired of being a backbone. Backbones break. And what we know about Black women, and Black women don't break. And so, like our leader, Melanie Campbell, the National Coalition of Black Civil Participation says, we are the secret sauce, and we've always been the secret sauce. We've always been the one make things happen. And so I think that we just need to leverage that power and to move forward with it as we are doing now, because we are some shakers, some movers. Resilience is just in our DNA, and we have everything we need. We are the ones we've been waiting for. So let's continue to move forward.
Well, I am so glad to have been here with you, dynamic women, today. I think we touched on just about all of the problems that are existing as it relates to the vaccination disparities. One thing I posted out on, in keeping with, this is Women's History Month, in keeping with some of the things that all of you have said about we have the power, and to take it a step further, we women have the power. I posted on my Facebook page today that in a few short years, we are going to be the majority. Statistics have said that. They keep moving the date a little bit, but it's still saying that. And I don't mean we as Black people, I mean the conglomerate of Asians and people of color, Native Americans, Blacks, Latinos. We are going to be the majority, and white people are going to be the minority. And it's not that I'm talking against all white people, because we have many allies that are not racist. But I am talking against the racists and the people who don't even know that they're racist, but they are helping to perpetuate the racist system. And they need people like June Elliott to show them that they are racist. But the point I'm making, and that I posted, is that we're going to be in the majority, and we have a heart. And we're not going to do them like we did, but we are going to be the majority. We're going to be running for offices. We're going to win, and we are going to be in control, and we are going to make a difference. And as we move toward that in the next few years, we have the power and we win. And that's what we have to understand. We can do it. So I thank you for your time. I thank you, the listeners, for their time. Since this is not live, we are not taking any questions, but we'll be posting this on YouTube. And so if there are some questions that you have, once you see that, or comments, we'll be checking those and we'll try to respond to you.
And I just want to take this opportunity to thank you, Dr. Long, for navigating us through the questions, and to each one of the panelists who have given of their time and energy and voice and expertise, that we are the secret sauce. Just watch us. Thank you so much.
Amen.
Blessings.
Thank you.
God bless.
Mhm.